News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:03. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. ABC News mentioned it at the top, but more on the sentencing of Lori Vallow Daybell. The Idaho mother has been sentenced to life in prison without parole in the murders of her two youngest children and romantic rival in a case that included bizarre claims that her son and daughter were zombies and that she was a goddess sent to usher in the apocalypse. Vallow Daybell was found guilty in May of killing her two youngest children, 7-year-old Joshua J.J. Vallow and 16-year-old Tylee Ryan, as well as conspiring to kill Tammy Daybell, her fifth husband's previous wife. Vallow Daybell will serve 3 life sentences, one after the other, according to the judge at the Fremont County Courthouse in St. Anthony, Idaho. Judge Stephen W. Boyce said the search for the missing children, the discovery of their bodies, and the evidence photos shown in court left law enforcement and jurors traumatized, and he would never be able to get the images of the slain children out of his head.
And it is the most shocking thing, really, I can imagine, is that a mother killed her own children, and you simply have no remorse for it. Even sitting here today, there's no remorse for what you did.
Vallow Daybell justified the murders by going down a bizarre religious rabbit hole, the judge said, and he said clearly, you are still down there. Boyce also heard from Vallow Daybell before handing down the sentence. She said that no one knew what took place in the case, and she described how she had a near-death experience while giving birth to Tylee, allowing her the ability to communicate with dead people.
One of the times that Tylee came to me as a spirit after she died, she commanded me, and she said to me, "Stop worrying, Mom. We are fine." She knows how I worry and how I miss her. The first time JJ visited me after he passed away, he put his arm around me and he said to me, "You didn't do anything wrong, Mom."
The sentencing is not the end of Vallow Daybell's legal cases. She has also been indicted in Arizona for conspiring to kill her husband, Charles Vallow, and her niece's ex-husband, Brandon Bedreau. KBNU News Time is 4:05. KBNU weather for tonight. Becoming mostly cloudy, there is a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms tonight, low around 60. East winds 10 to 20 miles an hour. Slight chance of storms in the afternoon tomorrow, partly cloudy, lower 90s for the high. And then we increase the chances this week, 30% chance Tuesday night and a 60% chance of storms on Wednesday. And cooler air, high temperature in the lower 80s on Wednesday. But it's been hot again today. 93 has been our high so far. It's 91 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Maple Creek Ranch, one of the most beautiful places to build a home in Cache Valley. National forest, hiking trails, streams right out your backyard. Go to maplecreek.net for more information.
If you've ever passed by 485 North Main, you've likely noticed how well kept the property is. The grass is always green and the flower beds are always well kept and in bloom. What you see on the outside is exactly what you'll find inside. Care and attention to detail. Exactly what you want when you're dealing with one of your most important senses, your hearing. Dr. Daines' love and care for the community has always gone beyond the front steps at Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. So if you're not hearing as well as you used to, stop in at 485 North Main in Logan or visit them online at cachehearing.com.
KBNU News Time is 4:07. A 44-year-old Tremonton man is in jail after police said he drove to Logan to have sex with an undercover police officer posing as a 13-year-old girl. Christopher Eric Breland was booked into the Cache County Jail on Thursday. According to an arrest report, Breland started sending messages to the undercover officer on July 14th. The Logan City police officer was posing as a teenage girl on a popular chat app, attempting to locate and identify people who might be sexually exploiting children within the community. Police report that Breland initially told the officer he didn't mind hanging out, but it didn't want to do anything illegal. He also discussed picking her up while he was in Logan running errands on a few occasions. As the messages continued, Breland began making more sexually charged comments. The chats became more graphic in nature, including a time when he expressed a desire to engage in sexual activity with both the undercover officer and her supposed mother. The probable cause statement detailed. On Thursday, Breland told the undercover officer he was coming to Logan and wanted to meet up to have sex. A location was set up where police were waiting and arrested the suspect without incident when he arrived. And 2 people were taken to the hospital after a crash that forced the closure of southbound lanes on Mountain View Corridor. The crash happened around 1:20 at the 4100 South intersection. Officials said a car was driving westbound and it appeared to run a red light crossing into oncoming traffic. Lieutenant Steve Beardshaw from the West Valley Police Department said a commercial truck traveling southbound through the intersection struck the vehicle. Officials said the impact of the first collision pushed the car into another vehicle. Crews from West Valley City Fire Department happened to be in the area and came upon the crash right after it happened. A 71-year-old woman and 10-year-old girl in the car were both injured. Officials said the girl was transported to the hospital in critical condition. The woman suffered non-life-threatening injuries and was also taken to the hospital. The driver of the truck and third vehicle were not injured. KVNU News Time is 4:09. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
610 AM and 102.1 FM. News Talk KVNU.
Are you a hot sleeper? Warm summer nights can make it hard to sleep. UNI Furniture recommends sleeping cooler with a gel memory foam mattress. UNI features a copper-infused gel memory foam that helps with coolness and circulation. It moves better with you, giving you the best night's sleep. UNI is also the home of Chair Heaven. There's a reason they sell so many chairs, including recliners. For over 90 years, there's always been a better buy at UNI Furniture, downtown Logan.
For our military families, Americans can show appreciation through education.
Because of you, I will walk across the stage.
I can show my children that they can succeed at any point in their life.
I will be able to make a positive difference in the lives of other people.
I was able to achieve my dreams and work on eradicate some of the world's top diseases.
I was able to get the education that I always wanted.
Because of you, I will be paying it forward and serving my nation.
Join us at ThanksUSA.org.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have 2 guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is Monday, July 31st. July just sailed by, and it's over.
Well, and it's done in
a few more hours.
8 hours.
Enjoy the warm temperatures out there. As you heard from Bill during the break there, things going to cool down quite a bit with this week. Relatively, of course. It's still going to be very much summer temperatures, but 10, 11, 12, maybe 15 degrees cooler than today.
I'm ready.
Yeah, it'll be a nice break, and hopefully some moisture as well. Though, you never know in Utah. The forecast is for some, at least, and The concern out there, I was following, I reached out to some of the fire officials and checked with the updates from the state forester's office. They put out statewide updates on this, and one of the big concerns with this upcoming storm or set of thunderstorms is, well, the thunderstorm part, the potential for lightning and more. The state forester actually says that it is dry enough out there right now that they not only are anticipating, but are basically banking on some lightning-sparked wildfires. They said the conditions are just ripe for it, hot, dry, and then a nice little thunderstorm comes through. The hope again is that this, won't be the case, or that anything that does pop up is something that burns itself out quickly, or is in an area where it's not much of a concern. But the major concern the state forester's office says is for basically the entirety of the eastern side of the state and some of the northern west as well. There's some concern as these thunderstorms come in that things are just dry and there's enough fuel out there that if there is a lightning-sparked wildfire, it could be significant. So the reason they put these messages out, though, the message is basically don't add to their workload. The odds are extremely high. There will be, firefighting efforts underway, either starting this week or in the next coming weeks as we head into, the dog days of August are here. And things are dry. There's a lot of fuel from the wet spring we had. Again, not just anticipating, but counting on firefighting crews being out there working on something. That's basically the mindset, as I understand it. And so anything that you add to that just stretches them even thinner. So be very careful out there. As far as campfires go, if you read as you head into the canyons, you see those signs that are updated by someone. Actually, I want this job, by the way. But someone has to drive every day in the morning and change those signs when you see those fire condition signs. Every way out of the valley right now is high fire condition warning, so a high danger of fire. So if you were out camping, hopefully you were safe, and we're not dealing with a big wildfire today, so everyone was, or those who weren't got lucky. But headed into the next weekend and the next weekend and the next weekend, it's only going to be worse. So things are already pretty dry out there now. It'll just continue to dry out. Just a lot of kindling waiting to be a wildfire. So the State Forester's Office is asking everyone to be up on the restrictions and conditions in your area if you're headed into the mountains, into a camping weekend, or even out there hiking. Pretty basic stuff.
A lot of it's just, common sense.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do that with this kind of scenario?
Yeah, that's. I did, though. I saw an interaction between some folks recently, though, and there's such a fine line between responsible citizen, not afraid to maybe speak up and say something when an individual is putting, everyone at risk through some dumb decision on their own, and being a Karen, as the current phrase goes. So I know no one wants to be Karen, and apologies to all Karens out there. I had nothing to do with the selection of that meme, but it stuck, and here we are. But I saw, so there was an individual that absolutely should not have been doing it. They were target shooting into a hillside.
Dumb.
Yeah. I have no idea what goes through some people's heads. But someone stopped and said, hey, well, I don't really know exactly what was said, but based on the the reaction of the individual, I'm guessing they said, that might not be the brightest thing to do, sir. And this wasn't a young person either. This was someone definitely old enough to know better, shooting into the hillside. and someone stopped and said, you're going to set this entire canyon on fire, and everybody up here is going to have to leave, and it's only Friday night. There were some words exchanged, not radio words either, but thankfully the individual got the message, and they put their rifle away and went on their way. Hopefully not to just another extremely dry, grass-covered hill to shoot at rocks that are going to spark and start a wildfire. But it only takes that one, to quote a very young cousin of mine, it only takes that one doofus. I love that word. I'm going to start using it more, but a little...
That's what my wife calls me sometimes.
Oh, that's just mean. Only when you deserve it, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it only takes that one bad decision. And we've all been there. None of us can be on a high horse about this. We've all done some things we probably shouldn't do. And we've all done, a little bit of risk-taking that was unnecessary, especially when we're young. But just don't. It is so easy to avoid a human-sparked wildfire. It literally takes no effort. It takes you not doing a thing that takes effort that is putting everyone at risk. So don't add to their work. Again, the anticipation, actually the assumption, I should say, is that fire crews are going to have work to do. If not this week, then the next or the one after. It's that time of year, and it is hot and dry, and there's a lot of fuel. So just don't add to their work. Some things to consider as well. These aren't as common sense or right at the forefront of your brain as, not target shooting into a dry, grassy hillside where you're going to spark off of a rock. These are some other tips. Watch where you park. The catalytic converters especially, but even the oil pan, even with a skid guard, it produces enough heat that you can actually start. This happened in Saratoga Springs a few years ago. Wildfire caught out there there was some event going on. Everyone was parking in a field, and the field had been cut. It wasn't just uncut grass. It had been cut, but it was high enough still. Someone pulled in there in a passenger car, and they parked alongside everyone else, went into the event, I forget what it was, and then nearly burned down 3 new housing developments because their car set that grass on fire, and they were not able to rescue their car, by the way. Everyone else got out in their vehicles, but that car was toast. So, just be careful. There are some things that you wouldn't, that maybe aren't going to cross your mind as readily as not. And smokers out there, again, it's in your vehicle, not flipping them out the window. And if you're standing outside, just be aware of your surroundings and where even the tiniest spark from a cigarette or a cigar can hit in the wind and hit some grass next to you, and then there you go. Also, the state forester is also asking, this is interesting, I thought, they're also asking construction sites to keep an eye on this. I don't know if this is new. I don't remember hearing of them doing this, but they're actually trying to get word out to, with all the housing development that's going on, and a lot of that going on in previously undeveloped areas. They're asking construction crews, sending messages around, trying to get through the grapevine of the construction industry to remind their workers to watch dragging chains and anything, cutting metals, grinding, anything like that. And you're doing that where a house is being built, and right next to that is a still undeveloped big dry field. You know what I'm talking about. You see it all around Cache Valley right now. So apparently there were some close calls along those lines over the last few weeks here in Utah too. So again, the point here is it's being taken very seriously by fire crews. We should all do the same. So if you want to see current restrictions for the camping areas, for the canyons all around this, it's easy to find. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, but it's also easy to understand. If it burns or makes a spark right now, not the best idea. 753-5868. Coming up, what Spencer Cox had to say at a recent National Governors Association meeting and how other governors are reacting to his plea that everyone find a way to disagree better. We talked about this on Friday's show with Tammy Pfeiffer here. Other governors are weighing in today. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, the big news of the day, Idaho mom Lori Vallow Daybell sentenced in the deaths of her 2 children and her romantic rival. And she's been sentenced to life in prison without parole. We'll talk about this and how the community in Idaho and here in Utah are reacting to this. We'll be back right after this.
If you're near retirement or thinking about retiring, you probably have questions. How do you make your savings last? How much should you take out and when? You're ready for retirement, but are your finances? Your Edward Jones financial advisor can help you build a strategy to help your finances keep up with your long-term needs. You've done what it takes to get there. Now it's time to make the most of retirement. Call one of the 7 Edward Jones branch locations in Cache Valley or go to edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
The Ramsey Show.
It has come to light that there's been financial infidelity from my husband, who got involved in day trading and has subsequently lost about $150,000.
Whoa.
$4,800 a month in minimum payments. It's crippling.
I'm so sorry. You are right to be maniacally angry. And y'all gonna have to heal relationally. You're living in relationship 2.0. Y'all gotta deal with this.
Evenings on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
You don't want to get mixed up with a guy like me. I'm a loner, Daddy. A rebel.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. We'll get to reactions to the Lori Vallow Daybell sentencing today. This was, obviously this is a story that caught regional attention from Utah to all through Idaho, but it was a story. It was the strangeness of it all. It's so hard to talk about this stuff because it's not to say that the murder of 2 children itself wouldn't be strange, just that. But then as more details came out, as, from Lori's disappearance and being found with Chad in Hawaii and the video that went viral of her kind of running from people who had, I think journalists found her first. I think is what happened, if I'm remembering right. I know it was someone who was filming, and there was video of her just kind of running past them at a hotel in Hawaii, and then authorities, made an arrest there, and but then as the details came out about her, what she did and why and the things she said, we aired some audio back, as the trial was wrapping up, as they made closing arguments several months ago, and it was just bizarre to hear, some of the comments from Daybell herself, but even others who there were people who believed her, despite the bizarre nature of some of her claims. Some of the audio that you heard during the news there. Anyway, we'll get back to this, but I wanted to throw it out for listeners. If you want to say something about it, if you have thoughts about it all. These types of things have a tendency to have a ripple effect on not just a community, but an entire region, even a nation at times. And I think this is one of those. It's rattled folks. And you combine that with the murder of the students in Idaho as well, a different part of Idaho, but the murder there just off of campus in northeastern Idaho. Northwestern. Thank you, Bill. Bill corrects my directions for me. He pointed west. I'm like, oh yeah, but yeah. There's nothing in northeastern Idaho. No offense to northeasterners, but some beautiful country. But yeah,
it is on your way to Montana.
Oh yeah. That's there's just not anything to stop really for, but it's northwestern Idaho murder of those students, and the ongoing that dragging out so long and requiring, just so many unknowns for so long. And then sort of the strange nature of the arrests made there as well, headed, cross country when they caught him. But, just these two events, I think, I've talked to friends and other locals in some of these areas in all parts of Idaho, and Idaho's kind of reeling from a lot of this.
National and some even international coverage.
Yeah.
And it all, two different sides of the state, but all the same state.
Yeah, that's and then also you have another effect of this, one that we talked about here on the show, which is the descent, the swooping of these amateur crime solver podcast people into the community. This was around the murder of the students. The same thing kind of happened for parts of Idaho around the Daybell murder and trial. You had these. This is big money. These podcasts. They you have 5 or 6 people making quite a decent amount of money running a popular podcast, and so they swoop in, and they had, in some communities, they had problems with people committing other crimes, breaking into places, wanting to be the one to solve it, but also hindering investigations. In one case, destruction of evidence, because they were trying to, be the one to. It's just, the whole thing has just been the strangest time. And again, speaking with folks in Idaho, I know it has rattled them. It's for a lot of sleepy communities that oftentimes aren't cable news spotlight getters. It's been strange for them to suddenly be in this position. But we'll talk about it. And again, inviting listeners, if you want to weigh in. This has been a long saga with the Daybell case especially. But sentencing today, Lori Vallow Daybell sentenced to life in prison without parole for the murder of her 2 youngest children and a romantic rival. And just some bizarre claims in all of this, that her son and daughter were zombies, that she heard from them after she had taken their lives, and they told her she was innocent, she didn't do anything, she did the right thing. Just absolutely bizarre. We've got some clips from the sentencing hearing today, and again, opening the phone lines up if you want to offer your thoughts on this. What I think about is what happens to these communities now. Now the spotlight will go away. The outsiders coming in to try and get some 15 minutes of fame on their own will go away, and they'll settle back into a new normal. But what does the new normal look like? These are small, sleepy communities in Idaho, and they've been in a national spotlight now in 2 different ways for years. And we'll talk about it right after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:31, and the news is brought to you by Logan Extermination. President Joe Biden will travel to Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico next week and is expected to talk about his administration's efforts to combat climate change as the region endures a brutally hot summer with soaring temperatures. Biden is expected to discuss the Inflation Reduction Act and the push toward more clean energy manufacturing. The act is America's most significant response to climate change and aims to spur clean energy build-out on a scale that will bend the arc of U.S. greenhouse gas emissions. July has been the hottest month ever recorded. Biden last week announced new steps to protect workers in extreme heat. The North Park Police Department is sponsoring their annual National Night Out tomorrow night. They, along with community partners, invite the public out to help promote a safe and happy community. The event will be held Tuesday evening from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. This is going to be at Elk Ridge Park in North Logan, 1060 East, 2500 North. It's co-sponsored by the Family Place and CAPSA. And as we've been telling you about on the news, Idaho mother Lori Vallow Daybell has been sentenced to life in prison without parole in the murders of her 2 youngest children and a romantic rival. The case has included bizarre claims that her son and daughter were zombies and that she was a goddess sent to usher in the apocalypse. Vallow Daybell was found guilty in May of killing her two youngest children, ages 7 and 16, as well as conspiring to kill Tammy Daybell, who was previously married to Vallow Daybell's fifth husband. KVNU News Time is 4:33.
As the summer's war against weeds and pests rages on, a new bug threat starts hopping around, destroying garden plants and flowers. Luckily, you are ready for them with Logan Extermination's Perimeter Grasshopper Control. It's like a minefield for the minute menace.
Good job, men. Another bug bites the dirt. Let's regroup before the next wave hits.
They do what they are trained to do. Strike terror into termites, bash the bed bugs, and cook the cockroaches. Remember the brave men and women at Logan Extermination. Call 752-8450.
Treatment areas vary. Call for a quote today.
The third person indicted in the Trump classified documents case had an initial federal court hearing in Miami. The Mar-a-Lago property manager, Carlos D. Oliveira, released until a hearing August 10th. ABC's Olivia Rubin in Miami.
His attorney sort of challenging the special counsel here, saying he encourages them to put their money where their mouth is, that they want to see the discovery. So really saying they want to see the evidence here and indicating essentially that they're up for a fight here.
Allegations are whether Mr. Trump ordered evidence, specifically security cam video, destroyed. The woman known as the Doomsday Mom has been sentenced to life without parole by a judge in Idaho for killing her children and conspiring to kill the ex-wife of her husband. The Republican-led House Oversight Committee heard closed-door testimony today from Devin Archer, a business associate of President Biden's son, Hunter. National Institutes of Health beginning studies to test possible treatments for long COVID, affecting millions for months or even years. Chuck Sievertson, ABC News.
KVNU weather tonight becoming mostly cloudy, slight chance of showers and thunderstorms tonight, low around 60. East winds 10 to 20 miles an hour tonight. Slight chance of storms in the afternoon on Tuesday, partly cloudy skies, high in the lower 90s. 30% chance of showers and storms Tuesday night, and then a big jump, 60% chance of storms on Wednesday. Cooler temperatures, high temperature in the lower 80s. It's been to 93. It's 92 right now at KBNU. Your trees and shrubs are growing like crazy. Are they blocking your view or posing a potential hazard? Call Whole Tree Care. They trim, shape, and remove trees. Call 435-760-6587. You can always get more news at CashValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Branch Office Administrator Brittany Chambers bringing you the daily financial market report on behalf of financial advisor Daryl Arnell and Edward Jones. Stocks finished at a new high for the year, ending the month of July on a positive tone. Outside of the Fed's Senior Loan Officer Opinion Survey, which showed that lending conditions at U.S. banks continued to tighten, the economic calendar was light, leaving the recent themes of economic resiliency and disinflation as the main market drivers supporting stocks. International equities were higher, with Asia leading. China's manufacturing PMI remained in contraction for the fourth month, but the downbeat data were offset by the announcement of further policy support. Elsewhere, Treasury yields were slightly lower, while oil prices rose above $80 and posted a 16% gain in July, the best monthly performance in more than a year. Today, U.S. equities closed higher. The Dow closed up 100 points, or 0.28%, at 35,560. The Nasdaq closed up 29 points, or 0.21%, at 14,346. The S&P 500 closed up 7 points, or 0.15%, at 4,589. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 3.95% lower by 0.02 percentage points. In stocks of local interest, Home Depot is up $2.47 to $333.84. Lowe's is down 82 cents to $234.27. Nucor is up $3.15 to $172.09. Pepsi is down $2.85 to $187.46. Thermo Fisher is down $13.19 to $548.66. Zions is down 44 cents to $38.25, and Northrop Grumman is down $4.68 to $445. This has been today's financial market report brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Daryl Arnell, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
Tuesday edition, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. The explosive fallout of Devin Archer's testimony about all of the business dealings inside of the Biden crime family. Plus, Buck.
We'll get into that and a bill in Illinois that would make it possible for illegal aliens to become police officers. That's on Clay and Buck.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVA News for the People. I have some cuts of the audio. We aired this today as the sentencing played out in the Lori Vallow Daybell trial. She was sentenced to life in prison without parole today in the murders of her two youngest children and a romantic rival. And this has just been the strangest, from claims that she murdered her son and daughter because they were zombies, and that she herself was a goddess who had been sent to usher in the biblical apocalypse. She was found guilty in May, a lengthy trial, I think 7 weeks, if I remember right. She was found guilty in May of killing her two youngest children, 7-year-old Joshua and 16-year-old Tylee Ryan. And was also found guilty of conspiring to kill Tammy Daybell, her fifth husband's previous wife. And she was sentenced today to life in prison without parole. She'll serve 3 life sentences, one after another, the judge said today. This all played out in a courthouse in St. Anthony, Idaho. And the judge, Stephen Boyce, said in his remarks that the search for the missing children, the discovery of the bodies, and the evidence photos shown in court left law enforcement and jurors themselves traumatized. And he said they will never be able to get the images of the slain children. He will never be able to get the images of the slain children out of his own head. Here's just a cut of number 1, Bill, of the judge on his remarks today.
And it is the most shocking thing, really, I can imagine, is that a mother killed her own children, and you simply have no remorse for it. Even sitting here today, there's no remorse for what you did.
The Judge Stephen Boyce, again, heard from Vallow Daybell today before handing down the sentence. It was strange. She quoted Bible verses and talked about not judging one another, and said that she herself was mourning the deaths of her children, but expressed again and again, as she did throughout the trial, that their deaths were necessary in her mind, and Tammy Daybell, but knew. But she said, they'll be together in the afterlife. Here's just a cut of that.
Jesus Christ knows that no one was murdered in this case. Accidental deaths happen. Suicides happen. Fatal side effects from medications happen.
This was, again, just traumatizing, as the judge said, for everyone directly involved, but also rattled, an entire community, an entire region of the United States. This was at a certain point, international story. And prosecuting attorney Rob Wood had asked the court for the maximum sentence. And in his remarks today, he said society can only be protected from the defendant if she, frankly, never gets out.
There is no true justice for murder. So we have to do the best we can. And any sentence that would allow this defendant to even hope for release from prison would send a message that these communities don't value the victims' lives appropriately.
In a twist that had, I know a lot of family members hoping for, a harsh sentencing and more. Well, I mean, this was a concern during the trial as well. Vallow Daybell, I think, obviously struggled with some untreated mental illness, and that was an issue during the trial and, ahead of the sentencing. She was committed multiple times for treatment to make her mentally competent for the court proceedings. But prosecuting attorney who you heard from there, Rob Wood, said there is no evidence that her crimes were impacted by her mental illness, which includes delusional disorder with grandiose features. To put that another way, that yes, this was a delusional person with some untreated mental illness, but not the type of mental illness that would complicate for someone their own sense of right and wrong. This was she knew she was taking lives, her own children, in fact. And finally here, defense attorney John Thomas said his client was likely the most hated woman in the country and possibly the world, but also very misunderstood. He asked for a lesser sentence of 20 years in prison with the possibility of parole.
We protect society by keeping her behind bars well into her 70s, but she has the incentive to be a model prisoner.
This, of course, isn't the end of it. The sentencing today, harsh, what a lot of people wanted to see, I think. Again, Daybell sentenced to life in prison without parole today and will serve 3 consecutive life sentences. She never seeing the light of day, basically, with that sentence ever again. But again, this isn't the end of it. She's also been indicted in Arizona for conspiring to kill her husband, Charles Vallow, and her niece's ex-husband, Brandon Boudreau. Again, just the strangest story. If you, this is reality. If you wrote this into a movie, it would be a bit over the top. If this was a fictional whodunit or crime, police procedural, very popular movies. This one, a true story again would be, I think, not as popular. I think people would see this as just a bit too much. But this was reality that we all watched play out. So 753-5868. Did you follow the story all these years? It's been going on a few now. How do you feel about the sentencing today? There was... there were groups of, maybe sympathetic's not the right word, but empathetic, maybe, groups of people who said, look, this is a person obviously struggling with some severe untreated mental illness, and maybe that needs to factor in here. But again, the prosecuting attorney, Rob Wood, said, despite having to be committed multiple times for treatment to make her mentally competent for the court proceedings, there was never any evidence that her particular mental illness impacted her ability to know right from wrong. The implication there again that she absolutely knew what she was doing. She was killing her children. She knew that. And that was the argument made by the prosecuting attorney during the trial and reiterated again at the sentencing hearing today. So thoughts on all this? There's been a long saga. And again, now that this is done, obviously your heart breaks for the children, first of all, whose lives were taken at such a young age by a very troubled and I would also argue very selfish individual. But then this whole saga plays out around the investigation, the trial, and now the wrapping up with the sentencing, at least here for Idaho. But the community's been rattled by this, the state's been rattled by this, and as things start to, as the limelight fades, these communities, these people, will be able to settle back into, but something. It's not going to be normal. It's not going to be what existed before in these sleepy communities in Idaho, not accustomed to the CNN cameras and the national spotlight, but it's going to settle down, but it'll settle down in a different way now. And my heart also breaks for those people, to have crimes of this nature happen, for some right in your own backyard, or in your neighborhood, or in your community, or in your part of the state. It's just again, I talked with some folks from the area, and said, Eastern Idaho has been just racked by this. It's changed. They seem like trivial things, but one woman told me, doors that were never locked now are. Even some, one story I was told, city equipment that was never locked up because everyone knew the groundskeeper, and if someone were to steal the lawnmower from the city, everybody would know, hey, that's the city's lawnmower. And so it's starting, locks and padlocks on those sheds and things like that. And the saddest one for me was a mom of 2 young children who said they don't go out after dark as much as they used to. They used to walk their neighborhood because they knew all their neighbors, and they'd go out and walk as a family. Kids were allowed to ride bikes right up until dusk after having dinner. And she said that a lot of that's changed. People are looking at the world differently now in some of these small communities around the area. And then again, you also have the western side of the state that has been impacted by a totally separate, also bizarre crime and investigation and finally arrest of an individual for murdering students in student housing just off campus there in western Idaho. That's had the same effect on the community as well. So what do you think? 753-5868. I think all of us can understand to some extent what this might be like to have something like this happen in your community, but I don't think even those of us here in Cache Valley, which for a lot of these communities we're talking about in Idaho is considered the big city. We are the big city to a lot of these communities north of us. Even here, though, I think we don't appreciate what this whole experience must have been like for everyone still living there and still making a life there. To have the media attention, to have, as I said, we talked about it here on the show, but a Atlantic article recently talking about these. It was McKay Coppins, who's an LDS journalist, grew up here in Utah, went to school here in Utah and knew Idaho well as well. And so he had this lengthy article where he was talking about what happened there in western Idaho as that investigation drug on. All these amateur sleuths, podcasters, just set up shop in western Idaho, took over the town. They were breaking into places and committing crimes on their own. Everyone trying to be the one that cracks the case. And in one situation, inadvertently still, but it destroyed evidence. And that person was actually charged recently, by the way. So by breaking into the crime scene. So imagine you're in this quiet Idaho community, and then all of a sudden you're a front page story, a CNN story, a Fox News story every night for a while, and it changes things. And like I said, the one that made me the saddest was talking to the woman in eastern Idaho, who said, what she'd noticed with this after the Daybell situation and the trial playing out. She says a lot of doors that never were locked now are. A lot of folks that she knew that rarely locked their homes when they went out for ice cream or dinner in town. Now those front doors are locked. She said there's a lot of new fences that have gone up around yards. And her words exactly, I remember, I don't think I'll ever forget her saying this. She said, even though Lori was arrested and had been charged for the crime and then convicted, she said it's still, just that it happened, it sows a lot of distrust in the community, and it changes us. Sad stuff.
I was looking here. Rexburg, you know what the city's motto is for Rexburg, Idaho?
What's that?
America's family community.
Oh, really?
And probably, up until the story developed, people did feel safe. It's a city a little bit smaller than Logan, almost 40,000. I think Logan at the 2020 census 52,000, but
Sure.
But like Logan, a city where people, I think, generally felt safe, have felt safe.
Yeah, that's and it does. It changes things. I know. I mean, this was a long time ago, but the very young girl that went missing here in Logan, and then the person eventually arrested for her murder was reported to have walked through Nibley and into Hiram, and I think even out past the reservoir there is where they got him, if I'm remembering right. But even that, just that fact that he'd strolled through town affected some folks I talked to at the south end of the valley. They said it was just we're insulated from a lot of this, and just sad stuff. But so to anyone listening right now in Rexburg, we're with you. Don't know what anybody could do to make this go away. It's never going to go away, but hopefully it doesn't change things too much. Those sleepy little Idaho towns are still some of my favorites just to go through on an afternoon. 753-5868. We'll be back right after this.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru for Morris Columbus Travel and Viking Cruises. Explore Europe on a deluxe river cruise. Visit Castle Country as you sail the Rhine River, visiting the Netherlands, France, Germany, and Switzerland, or amazing history along the Danube River, visiting Austria, Hungary, and Slovakia. Give us a call at Morris Columbus Travel.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
Ready to experience a new level of local transit? Well, with the new CBTD app, it's super simple for you to plan your trip to a T. With our interactive map, you can view bus stops closest to your location with real-time arrival information. You can mark your favorite stops, get alerts, set reminders, and much more. So whether you're a seasoned pro or it's your first ride, get moving today with the new CBTD app.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. One last thing I want to mention regarding the Lori Vallow Daybell sentencing today. Again, sentenced to three consecutive life imprisonment terms. She'll serve life in prison without parole. That sentence handed down today, and in St. Anthony, Idaho courthouse. Just one other thing that this stood out to me, but the family, Vallow Daybell, her own family, how they've been. So they still live there, many of them, in these communities, and they are still a part of the community, and they're now tied to the person who did this. And that's also an aspect of this that, again, the point I'm trying to make here is that these crimes in and of themselves are heinous, and then there's this ripple effect in which so many lives and entire towns, entire communities, even an entire state are forever changed by the actions of one very troubled person. Tammy Daybell's aunt and JJ's grandparents reacted this morning before the sentencing hearing, and said, Tammy Daybell's aunt said, I'm feeling very anxious. So again, we know now a jury convicted the East Idaho mom in May, but headed into the sentencing today, there were still some unknowns. What would happen? Again, the defense asking for 20 years with the possibility of parole, using her mental illness as a justification for giving her a lighter sentence with treatment. But Vicki Hoban is this morning shared the times that she missed with Tammy Daybell, and she said we'd all get the girls and go to have a big girls' lunch and talk and laugh and tell jokes and take funny pictures, and that will never happen again. And so, that it just kind of drives home the point that again, these people have been impacted by the decisions of one individual. Well, two, if you want to include Chad and his influence in encouraging Lori. These people who still live in these communities, their lives are forever changed. And so one heartwarming thing that I did read through all of this, though, this came from Rexburg, but the community had really stepped up to let Vallow Daybell family members, those who still live in the community that have ties, familiar or otherwise, to Lori, and the community had stepped up and gone out of their way to say, you are a part of this community, and we separate, we separate you from these crimes, from these heinous acts. So, but again, just can't imagine the situation overall for all of these people affected by it. But an interesting, I've linked to this, but KTVB out of eastern Idaho had a great interview, and they spoke with a retired county deputy, out-of-county deputy prosecutor, Jean Fisher, ahead of the sentencing today, and she kind of laid this out because a lot of people were wondering why the death penalty wasn't considered, and Fisher said, from her perspective as a former prosecutor, she said if the death penalty had been considered, the jury would have had the same jury, would have sat and had a jury part 2, basically, for the sentencing, and they would have made the decision right then, and what the sentencing would be, and they would not have to do this whole pre-sentence investigation, a second investigation that kind of played out. Fisher said that can re-traumatize a community. So she defended them not seeking the death sentence in this case, even though she says as a prosecutor they probably could have gotten it. So, end of a lengthy, traumatic saga. And if you want to read more, a full story on this at CashValleyDaily.com. Sentencing handed down today. 3 life sentences consecutive for Lori Vallow Daybell for the murder of her 2 children and a